bet it. What's up, man? Okay. Tommy right the third, man. What's up, man? Memphis crib. Yeah. Y'all know what time it is.
Alright, what the fuck is up, y'all? I'm gonna be showing you guys how I make my beats, the process, all that good shit. This is just gonna be straight to the chase, no bullshit. How to make Memphis beats, the way that I make them. Let's just get right into it. So we're gonna start off with my favorite part of making a beat, which is the drums. So when it comes to making drums, it really just depends on how I'm feeling at that time. I don't stick to one kind of drum set. I usually always like to keep my arsenal open. I don't want to just constantly use the same noises all the time. So, first off, whenever I actually do start making a beat, it all just depends on the vibe that I'm feeling, as usual. And if I got something like this is just an example beat, but if I end up getting something like a little darker, then me personally, I'm just gonna immediately gravitate towards darker and grittier and like more lo-fi shit. And for one thing, I never really depend on mixing for my drums, because whenever I get drum kits, a lot of them already sound the way that I would want them to, even when I'm like about to mix them. If I were specifically going for like a lo-fi sound. So for example, like this beat right here with these drums. Off the bat, they already kind of sound a little lo-fi. Yeah, a lot of these are already like tape processed, so I don't feel the need to do any more mixing unless it's just some shit that I would need to cut out, you know. So when it specifically comes to making like processed Memphis shit, I usually like to just go for sounds in the kits and just bank off that, rather than getting sounds and then mixing them after to make them sound the way that they should, you know. This is a completed beat. This is off of my vault drop. I'll play it for you for a second. So obviously this feels a lot more, you know, modern. This is kind of more like 2010s-esque, maybe Juicy J, some Project Pat shit. This is more shit that I like. With stuff like this, I use a lot of modern sounds from people that are not Memphis related at all. People like Glowkey or Grim Brazy, or even shout out 6, you know, Prod6 on Instagram. Check that motherfucker out. But all I'm trying to say is that I don't limit myself. I feel like if you limit yourself to the sounds that you use, you're just gonna trap yourself in a corner and you're not gonna be able to like get out of it creatively. For me, it's always best to just fuck around and mess with things that otherwise maybe wouldn't work. I mean, it's not like this stuff like right here is anything crazy, but like it's fun to experiment, and it, like I don't think it should be something that's frowned upon, honestly. A lot of the people that make Memphis rap or Memphis beats just like make the same kind of beats over and over again. They just have like sub bass in every song. Like, who gives a fuck about sub bass, bro? I'm sorry, but you've had that in 100 songs. Like, let's switch it up a bit. I'm gonna give you a little run through some of the kits that I use. Some of my go-to kits specifically. The one that I've always used and that is always a good go-to is the triple beat scale raw Memphis kit. This fucking kit slaps. It has my favorite like processed kinds of paths in it. It's absolutely perfect. These could all go good if you want to make, you know, that classic Memphis, or if you're in the community, you can make your Isaac beats and fucking all that shit.
Put a strain on my brain, 357 soon rain, soda pump.
Has really good open hi-hats too. If I were to only recommend one kit to somebody, I would honestly recommend this fucking kit right here. triple beat scale raw Memphis kit. This kit is amazing. Another kit that I really like to use, that is honestly also been like I've used for so long now, it's the DJ Sacred Mega Pack. This shit has everything that you would, I mean, if you were to get started, this has a lot of like well-known samples for vocals. I mean, just for vocals, it has very like well-known ones that have been overplayed to hell, and it's even got really niche ones too. The crazy thing too is that this kit also has like, it's got a whole shit ton of drum loops. It has samples from drums of older songs, so like right here, these are all sampled from older songs. This has a lot to offer. I would recommend this kit as well. Last but not least, how could you go wrong with Bensu's fucking Memphis extravaganza, bro? All of these kits are honestly really good, but if I were to pick one, I would have to go with the very first volume of the Underground. This has a whole bunch of fucking sounds from old drum pads, alongside with instruments that all go well with Memphis. I mean, just listen to this shit. I mean, this kit, this would probably be your best bet if you wanted to make melodies. So now I'm going to show you guys some techniques that I like to use on some of my drums. First off, if you look right here, I have this at literally 1%. If you listen carefully though, and then compare it to the 1%, sound like it's a little more natural. I mean, even though making music in a DAW is anything but natural, it makes the hi-hats sound a little more fluid and a little more bouncy at the same time. When it comes to rolling, I literally don't ever roll. I literally just do a triplet like this every once in a while. Like if you're head bobbing, I usually would always want like the rhythm to be on each single head bob. If you were to bob your head to this, you can tell that like every single beat that hits is going to hit on the head bob. So that's just a little thing, not very major at all. But also another thing that I like to do is panning. Panning is also very important. The sounds that I use tend to clash, especially when there are a lot of highs. So panning is very important when it comes to like hi-hats. Another thing that I like to do, I don't know if I did it in this beat. Yeah, I did it in this beat. I fucked up right here though. You can see that's actually embarrassing. I usually turn the velocity on them all the way up, and then I like to pitch them down a little bit so they sound a little more punchy. It's a little minor difference. It's the minor things that really, like, when you're listening to the beat and it's just like a little tiny thing that switches, kind of like transitioning into another pattern that has like a hi-hat that's like just very different or has another kick. Like, it's the little things like that that really, in my opinion, can make a beat a little more compelling. So in this next part, I wasn't going to actually talk about this because I didn't really know how to. Because when it comes to sampling, there's a whole bunch of different ways you really can sample. And the way that I do it is definitely the least interesting. And you could probably see by the looks of it that like all my samples come from those kits. But it's best to know the music of the artists that you are actually like making music for. like being influenced by when you're making this shit. For me, I barely had any knowledge on like listening to Memphis rap. Like I said earlier, I just listened to Juicy J growing up, and that was to the extent of that. Like I'm not even from Memphis, but there are a lot of people in this internet world that like to say that they're Memphis and that they're not, and like whether or not they are, it doesn't really matter. It's the fact that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about when they're talking about Memphis. So, you know, if there's just a word of advice, I would have to say it's best to just do research. You know, if you know a Memphis rapper on the top of your head, I guarantee you can just look him up and then just go into a rabbit hole on other Memphis rappers if you don't know jack shit about Memphis rap. But if you do, then your best bet for sampling other artists, or for sampling like vocal samples and stuff, for example, would just to be listening to those other artists. Like when I sample, I like to literally go out of my way to listen to old Memphis rappers. Because that, in my opinion, is the best way to get into that world. But at the end of it all, when it boils down to how do you sample, it really doesn't matter how you sample or what you sample. It can be whatever. It just has to have that vein of Memphis in it. This is more of a rant more than it was a tutorial part, but I think it was honestly needed. It's not really that complicated, but again, it also depends on like what kind of beat I'm making. This beat I pulled up earlier. It's this one, whatever. And for this beat in particular, I literally only have like a soft clipper and an EQ on it. This is my buddy Six's actually. And then if I were to do something like lo-fi, then I would go, this is what my other preset would be. This is if I were to go more gritty. I barely have a sound goodizer on there. I got a soft clipper on there, and then God forbid I got a fruity limiter, and then I have the lows just a tad down, and then I have the highs rather down, and then it'll sound like this. Bass is loud as fuck, but you get it. Obviously I would not use that on here because this is just way too trappy, but yeah, mixing for master is not too complicated over here, and there's nothing too crazy. And honestly, if you really wanted to go deeper into making like cassette tape type shit, you could just do this and then throw on RC20 and then you'd be set. That might even be too much with all this on there. You could honestly probably take off the limiter and put RC20, just replace that. And honestly, that's what I would do. Bass and whatnot, nothing crazy. I really don't touch this stuff at all. Like I said, I just have to cut out some stuff if it's needed. Oh, that's another thing I actually wanted to point out. So, whenever, one thing that I actually do a lot is tuning my vocals. So like if I have a vocal like this where it's literally just the song. There's no acapella. This is literally just the song. Tune it into my beat and kind of use it as like an accent melody while at the same time having like a vocal. So example for this song is by DJ Squeaky. This is it just regularly.
In my pimpin', blowin' chicken, it's that drill. Dwellin' on that mobbing game. Flippin' bumpin', hear my drill. Bitch, bill, gold grill, ox and bones. Keep them hoes looking at my pimpin'. Bitch, it clean. And they watch me as I tiptoe, whoopin' in the.
And obviously that alone, it sounds great already. Like it's got great flow and everything, but we can even make it better just by tuning it to our melody that we have up here. It helps a lot with making a song sound like sonically well.
Bitch, bill, gold grill, ox and bones.
honestly, mixing, I'm not good at mixing at all. That's why I don't really touch it. But at the same time, I don't really feel like I need to. I feel like I got everything right here. You know, nothing too crazy. Works out pretty well for me. But yeah, that's everything that I have in store for you guys. I don't really know what else to say, honestly. When it comes to making beats, I've really been about like the clout or like the fucking numbers or like anything like that, bro. I just love making beats because I fucking love making beats, bro. And especially this Memphis shit. I love the Memphis style, bro. And it honestly kind of hurts seeing some people try to make Memphis and they just don't know what they're doing, man. I just think they need to get back in the booth. People need to get back in the booth and rethink their plan or something, man. Hopefully this helped them. I'm gonna go back in hiding.